Could it be? But me, your man, Louie T. Welcome to the command post. You know what it is. Post up. Take command. Of course, I'm your Commander-in-Chief, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. So the week that just keeps on giving continues as we thought we were going to be able to relax just a bit. Saturday brings more action our way as this has been one of the craziest weeks in recent memory. And we expected a lot of things to go on this week. I don't think we could have anticipated that it would have gone the way that it's gone. Obviously, the coaching search going in the way that it went. I think because the coaching search went how it went, because I think their eyes were set, and we've heard all the rumors, and now more rumors come out about Ben Johnson and the whole process. And I told you that was going to happen, right? I told you that you were going to see a lot of back and forth. Everyone's going to be trying to do damage control on their end. Just tune that out because he's not here. That's the most important part. Like, don't get caught up in the sleight of hand, right? Look over here. Like, don't pay attention to that stuff. He's not here. Who cares, right? Why he's not here, right? They hired a defensive-minded head coach because of what Ben Johnson did and did not want to be here. And in doing that, it's now forced them to have to make some decisions as far as offensive coordinator is concerned. Now, this is turning into a process. And we expected it to be. But if we would have had Ben Johnson or some offensive-minded guy, then this wouldn't have been something we would have been mulling over. So we went into the weekend thinking, okay, this is going to be a process. It'll linger into next week sometime. One of the candidates that they're considering is Chip Kelly, the chipster, as I like to call him. And we did a video yesterday talking about you guys' interest in Chip Kelly. I'm not really interested. And I went and did a little bit of homework just to make sure that I was right about how I felt. Maybe my opinion on Chip Kelly was outdated. Maybe it was antiquated. Maybe I needed to catch up with the times. So I went, looked to see what Chip was doing. Looked like same old chipster to me. Yeah, there were a few new wrinkles, but I'm not interested in Chip Kelly coming here. Now, again, if they were to do that, I'd be on board, but that's not my preference. So now a new name enters into the chat. Kliff Kingsbury, who we thought was going to Vegas to be the Raiders offensive coordinator under Antonio Pierce, somehow had breakdowns in the contract. That's what it sounds like. Contract negotiations didn't go as smoothly as they thought. And then he told Raiders brass, I'm good. Just similar to what happened with Ben Johnson, except we got all the way. He was in the final stages of making it official, and then contract negotiations broke down. We didn't even get to Ben Johnson before he shut us down, right? So similar situation. He's not going to Vegas now. He's back in the pool. I told you that pool was shrinking, right, of offensive coordinators if they weren't going to say go to San Francisco. And they seem to have a bevy of coaches that are young and up and coming. And I said, maybe there's a list that nobody else knows about that Adam Peters has in his back pocket. And I'd still like him to go to that list if it exists, right? But if it doesn't, Kliff Kingsbury is an offensive coordinator option that exists. Apparently, he doesn't just exist all of a sudden now that his name is back in the mix. He seems to have gone straight to the top of the list, according to some. Let's take a look at what's going on social media right now surrounding Kliff Kingsbury. So we're going to start with Ben Standing. And anytime it gets to the local media, you know the shit has legs. The national media grabs it. Yeah, and they're just as tapped in as anybody. But the locals, when they get a hand, normally they got people inside the building, real contacts, where if they're saying, yeah, I heard the same thing, then I'm like, okay, where there's smoke, there's fire. There's a lot of smoke around Kliff Kingsbury to Washington right now. There's some fire somewhere is what I'm trying to tell you. I always tell you where there's smoke, there's fire. There's a little bit of, there was a little bit of smoke with Chip Kelly. This is a lot of smoke here, folks. So Ben Standing, as you know, covers the Washington Commanders for The Athletic, responded to a tweet that The Athletic put out, which says Kliff Kingsbury has withdrawn from the Raiders offensive coordinator search. A source confirms to @Ben Standing. And so Ben then adds to that tweet, right? He quotes that tweet and then writes, important note in here. Kliff Kingsbury is in play for the Commanders' offensive coordinator opening. Sources tell me and Vic Tafur. So, and Vic Tafur is works for the Athletic, covering the Raiders. So, there again, that's what we've been hearing, right? Then you get to Albert Breer, right? Albert Breer writes, so Adam Schefter tweeted this out initially, and I didn't really pay it much attention when he tweeted out, just, it broke down in Vegas. I didn't think it had anything to do with us. But Adam Schefter tweeted out, a twist in Las Vegas, Kliff Kingsbury has withdrawn himself from consideration for the offensive coordinator job of the Raiders, per his agent at Eric Burkhart. So to that, Adam Breer quotes and says, a contractual hangup led to there being an opening on Kliff Kingsbury, and the Commanders are among the teams that swooped in to try and hire Kingsbury as an offensive coordinator. Kliff to DC is in play. All right. And then so Adam Schefter then comes behind that tweet. All right. And he then follows up on the tweet, as you can see, that he had initially. And he says, former Cardinals head coach Kliff Kingsbury, who was close to becoming the Raiders offensive coordinator, is a leading candidate to become the Commanders offensive coordinator, per sources. So these things happen very rapidly. And obviously this thing is moving quickly. We'll see if this in fact gets done. We are not sure. And until this is a done deal, ink dries on paper, nothing is done, right? As we just saw with the Raiders, right? You cannot assume that anything is done, but he has jumped to the top of the list. I don't really know if Washington had a lot of candidates that they had in mind if Kliff Kingsbury comes available and he jumps straight to the top of the list. Now, I'm going to say this, and we had some really good discussions over the last 48 hours when we were talking about Chip Kelly, and some of you brought up some great points about what this may indicate Washington is leading towards in the quarterback department. So many people are trying to draw a direct correlation to Caleb Williams. Stop doing that. Like, my guy JP, love JP to death. JP is infatuated with Caleb Williams to Washington. The fact of the matter is we don't control that, okay? And I don't know if you guys saw the rumors coming out of the Senior Bowl, but everybody thinks that the Bears, and again, it's just innuendo, it's just rumor. It doesn't mean that that's what they're ultimately going to do. But I've already told you this. The Bears have played this thing straight down the middle. Why? Because they could go either way. They've played it down the middle, even down to the coordinator hire of Shane Waldron. They've played it down the middle because if they have to pivot, they don't want to have to do a total 180, right? They don't want to have to do something crazy and drastic to accommodate keeping Justin Fields. So they've done everything down the middle just in case Caleb Williams gets cold feet and says, I don't want to play for Chicago. Word out on the street is he has no issues playing for Chicago. We've went over this already. When we did his QB conundrum, we talked about, he already said, I'll play anywhere. And it's been confirmed again. Colin Cowherd came out and said, well, he's already told Chicago he doesn't want to play there. And his people have come out and said that. And they refuted that and said, we've never said anything like that. And until the Bears get full confirmation that he doesn't want to play in Chicago, he's going to be the pick at number one. I totally believe. However, if you're Washington and you're interested in one of these spread offensive coordinators like Chip Kelly or Kliff Kingsbury, and we'll get into Kingsbury here in a second and what he brings to the table potentially if he, in fact, is the new coordinator here in Washington, then it means you're looking for an athletically gifted quarterback. Not just a guy like Drake May who can run, but a guy like Jaden Daniels who is a runner, right? So there's a difference. If you're going to go and get a guy like Kliff Kingsbury, you need a Jaden Daniels. He's even more athletic and explosive than Caleb Williams. You need a guy like that. So let's dive into Kliff Kingsbury, okay? Because let me state my position first. I would prefer one of these young up-and-coming guys from San Francisco, right? Or some kind of, unknown candidate that nobody's really looking at, off the radar. He's a tight ends coach or he's a pass game coordinator somewhere out of a tree that we know is established and works in this league, tried and true. I'd love to get one of those guys. And there are plenty of them on the San Francisco 49ers staff, which is where I thought they were going to go. And people like Miss Perry have been great throughout this process and helping me to see some of these candidates that exist. And so I was thinking maybe that's the direction they head in. I don't know if that's where, obviously, I don't think that's where they want to go, right? So Kliff Kingsbury is a guy that I have a lot of respect for as an offensive play caller. And I think he is a much better option than that of Chip Kelly. Do I want Kliff Kingsbury? I think there are other options that I would be a little bit more excited about because of the type of offense that I'm looking to run. But personally, if you made me choose between Kliff Kingsbury and Chip Kelly, give me Kliff Kingsbury all day, every day. And Kliff Kingsbury ran a very effective offense in Arizona. And you can go look at the numbers. There was a little stretch there in 2020 and 2021. He took over as the head coach in 2019. Remember, they got him because they were getting Kyler Murray number 1 overall. He had a history with Kyler Murray, and they felt like his offense would fit and suit Kyler Murray's skill set the best. So they brought him on board. 19, a little rough, right? First year, you're feeling out everything. He's getting acclimated to the NFL and understanding how he's going to have to adjust his scheme. I thought he did a really good job of adjusting it in 2020. Much better results. They became one of the better offenses in football. In 2021, that's when he was at his best as a play caller. They were top 10 in points per game, top 10 in yards per game. They were top 10 in rush yards. And a lot of the misnomer out there regarding Kliff Kingsbury is he comes from the air raid attack, so he doesn't run the football. That's false. Now, understand when people throw numbers at you, you got to understand the context of those numbers. He was top 10 in rushing, top 10 in rushing attempts in 2021. But understand that Kyler Murray was one of his leading rushers, and Kyler Murray had a chunk of those carries as well. So understand that, yes, while he had the Arizona Cardinals as a top 10 rushing offense in 2021 and also very good in 2020 as well, Kyler Murray, his quarterback, was a huge part of that. So that's why I think it's imperative to know that if they're going to bring in a guy like Kliff Kingsbury, they're already zeroing in on a quarterback, more likely than not, Jaden Daniels at number 2 overall. That's what that tells me right now, is that whether it's Daniels or Williams, I don't think they're getting up to 1 because I don't think the Bears are trading a pick. I think they've zeroed in on Jaden Daniels. That's going to be the guy. And that's why they envision a guy like Kliff Kingsbury or even Chip Kelly as their next offensive coordinator, because they see that coordinator being able to get the most out of a guy like Jaden Daniels. So when I look at Kliff Kingsbury, I saw a guy that made adjustments to the skill set of the team and the players that he had. He started out not throwing the ball to the tight ends. They went out and got Zach Ertz. He started throwing the ball to the tight ends. He came into the NFL wanting to spread everybody out, throw the football. He realized that's not how this game works. He started to run the football more effectively. A lot of double teams up front. Were very physical at the point of attack. They ran the football very effectively. We saw the rebirth, right, of James Conner in Arizona. Why? Because Kliff Kingsbury ran the football. So don't allow yourself to think that this air raid attack doesn't feature a run. If you adjust to your players and you adjust to the league and how things are done in the NFL, you can have success. I thought Kliff Kingsbury actually had a successful offense. My biggest issue with Kliff Kingsbury when he was in Arizona was I thought there was a lack of accountability, and he wasn't the type of coach, I don't think at least, to put his foot down and be the dictator that you have to be as a head coach. It's cool to be the fun coach, and it's cool to be, the guy that everybody loves, but at some point you got to put your foot down and let everybody know who's in charge. I thought he struggled with that in Arizona. And we saw instances where there were blowups on the sideline. I remember a very, public Monday night game where Kyler Murray comes off to the side and he's cussing out Kliff Kingsbury during the timeout, right? I don't know what happened, but you can't be cussing your head coach. Like if you want to cuss out the offensive coordinator or the quarterback's coach and y'all get into it, that happens, right? But you can't do that to the head coach, okay? You can't show that kind of disrespect to your head coach. And he did that, and he had no issues doing that. And that's a problem for me. Well, he won't be in control of the entire team. His job will be to just make sure that this offense is effective. Now, there have been people who, ex-players, things of that nature, who have said, there's no way Kliff Kingsbury needs to be an offensive coordinator. Maybe a positional coach, maybe a quarterback's coach, but he's not ready to be an offensive coordinator in the league. And some of that is because Caleb Williams, under his tutelage, again, he was a part of that USC staff. He was not the single play caller or anything like that, but he was added to that staff in 2023. And Caleb Williams and that offense at USC got worse. And a lot of people looked at Kliff Kingsbury and said, bro, what's going on? You were supposed to add to this thing. They were one game away from making the college football playoffs in 2022, losing to Utah in the Pac-12 championship. Without that loss, they win that game, they're going to the playoffs. They thought adding Kliff Kingsbury was the piece that would put them over the top. They'd be even better and more explosive on offense. And they were a worse football team this past year. So a lot of people are looking at Kliff Kingsbury and saying, bro, are you really, as sharp as people say you are? I think he is, but time will tell. I'm telling you right now, he'd be a really good hire. I think he has done a great job of adjusting to the NFL and with his play calling, putting players in positions to succeed. I thought he did great things with DeAndre Hopkins. I thought he was really good with Zach Ertz. I thought he literally gave James Conner's career life. He was on his deathbed in terms of a career with James Conner. His career was on life support. He came to Arizona, and I thought that Kliff Kingsbury gave James Conner's career life, okay? I thought he did some really good things with the talent that he had in Arizona, and I wouldn't mind him being here in Washington. It's not my first choice, but I definitely take him over Chip Kelly. And I'll just say this. I don't know if you guys also saw this, and I'm pretty sure you did. The Raiders, after being scorned by Kliff Kingsbury, have now shrunken their search to 2 coordinators, I believe. Now, these 2 are rumored to be front runners, and we'll see what they ultimately do. Former Bears offensive coordinator Luke Getsy, who runs a similar offense, literally comes from that same spread air raid type of attack. And yours truly, Eric Bieniemy, right, is also a front runner. So the fact that we're going outside of the building and looking at other candidates, Eric Bieniemy's all but gone, right? Which is music to my ears. But again, we'll see what ultimately happens. I wish him nothing but the best. I know y'all probably think I hate Eric Bieniemy. I don't. I just don't want him here. I wish nothing but the best. I hope he goes to Vegas, gets an opportunity, kills it with the Raiders, gets a head coaching job. I want him to succeed. He's just not my cup of tea here, right? He may fit somewhere else. Again, this is the thing. He might be better suited to be with a veteran quarterback. That might be Eric Bieniemy's thing. You saw he did some good things with Jacoby Brissett. Maybe, but that's not what we're doing here, okay? We're getting a young guy. We just saw him destroy a young guy. We need somebody that can develop a young quarterback. Clearly, Eric Bieniemy was not interested in taking his time and doing it the right way in developing a young quarterback. He tried to expedite that process because everybody's job was on the line, okay? That's not how it works. That's not how any of this works. You don't get to expedite the process because your job is on the line, Ron's job is on the line, Jack's job is on the line. You don't get to speed up the process of a young quarterback. He tried to, and he failed miserably. And to that, I say, you have to go because we're going to do it again with a young quarterback. And I don't want you touching the next young quarterback. So clearly they agree. He's going to be out of here. Now the question is, who's coming in here? Is it going to be Kliff Kingsbury? I don't know. But one thing's for sure, a lot of people have him going straight to the top of the list for the Washington Commanders. And if he, in fact, is the hire, I wouldn't be that mad about it, to be honest with you. I actually like Kliff Kingsbury as a play caller. Don't love him as a disciplinarian, but I love him as a play caller. You don't have to, again, when you're a coordinator, you get to be the substitute teacher. He's best as the substitute teacher. This might be a good role for him. We'll see. Anyway, what's your thoughts? Kliff Kingsbury, yay or nay? All right, not my first choice, but I wouldn't be upset about it. Much more comfortable with him than Chip Kelly. That's for damn sure. What says you? Leave it down in the comment section. Kliff Kingsbury, you interested? Or you feel the same way you felt about Chip Kelly? Nah, I'm good. Or maybe you felt good about Chip Kelly and you still would prefer Chip over Kliff Kingsbury. Leave it down in the comment section. Can't wait to read your responses. Look, this week has been crazy. And look, it was only fitting that we got more stuff coming out over the weekend. Okay? That's the kind of week it's been. We might get more information. Normally, weekends are quiet and then they pick up right where they left off on Monday. No such thing here. They're getting right after it. And again, I told you, the NFL really doesn't want anything bleeding into its Super Bowl week. So maybe this thing gets wrapped up by, Sunday and nothing bleeds into Super Bowl week. They really like to keep the week of the Super Bowl concentrated and fixated on the Super Bowl. Everybody's energy, resources on the biggest game of the sport, and they don't want any distractions away from that. So maybe Washington's trying to squeeze into that deadline. We'll see what happens. I think that's why the Raiders are moving as quickly as they're moving as well, trying to figure out who will be their next offensive coordinator. One thing's for sure, something's going to get done here shortly. But maybe it bleeds into next week. Maybe it doesn't. But Kliff Kingsbury, where there's smoke, there's fire. There's a lot of smoke. A lot of smoke right now. Kliff Kingsbury to Washington. We'll see. How do you feel? Leave it down in the comment section. Can't wait to read your responses. That's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on the Command Post. You know what it is. Post up. Take command. I'll see you guys next time. Have a good one.